Oh, wow. Of course. It would not be a live stream, impromptu live stream without audio issues to begin with. So all that stuff I just talked about, you could not hear. That's entirely my fault. My bad. What a great way to start this. So let me start over. First of all, let me pull up chats to make sure I can see everybody's chats coming through. And then we'll get started. So as I was saying, when nobody could actually hear me, we're going to be doing some vibe coding tonight. And the reason that I decided to do this out of nowhere and not even schedule it, which is very much against what I normally do, the reason that we're doing that tonight is because I'm working on a project. And this project is for a video that I'll be posting hopefully next week, if not in the next couple of weeks, that's going to demonstrate common auditing issues that people have when they're dealing with Terraform and Terraform security. So vibe coding is perfect for this project because I want sloppy infrastructure and I want sloppy code. That's not a common use case. And so the moment that I started working on this, I'm like, I should absolutely be live streaming this and people may be interested in this. So before I keep going, are you able to hear me now? Let me make sure. Does this actually work? Why can I not type in this? Come on, LinkedIn. Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay, yeah, my mic is actually lighting up now, so you should be able to hear me. If you can't hear me, then definitely let me know, and I'll try to fix it. Okay, so I'm going to start switching over to my screen share. Excuse me, screen share. Wow, my voice is cracking already. So yeah, we're starting with a completely blank project. I literally don't have anything in here except for a README. Sorry, I lied. I have a README file that just says Terraform audit. So I've got a GitHub repo that's set up. Right now it's private. I may make it public in the future. I don't know yet. We'll see. But we're going to start from scratch. We're going to start vibe coding this. And by the end of this live stream, I'll probably have about an hour, give or take. By the end of this, then hopefully we'll have some infrastructure that's actually deployed in AWS and working. If not, then maybe we'll continue that afterward, which just depends on how much time I actually end up having tonight. We'll see. So my current option for anything related to code is, without even question, without even debate, Claude. So I've been using Claude Code a lot, which is the CLI that is produced by Anthropic. And so if you download it, you can go on the internet and find it. In fact, let me pull some of this up for you in case you are not familiar with it. So if you search for Claude Code, go in here, it's your new codes collaborator, blah, blah, blah. You can install it with NPM if you have that. You can just copy and paste this and get it going in your terminal. And then all you have to do is type Claude. The first time you do this, you'll have to authenticate. I think you'll have to authenticate. You don't necessarily have to authenticate. You can use the API. And so I don't think that goes through authentication, but it's been a while since I've done this. So frankly, I could be wrong. I don't remember exactly. But once you authenticate, it then asks you, do you trust stuff in here? Yes, of course. It's my own project. And then what you can do is, to get started, tips. Okay, interesting. One of my apps crashed. I don't actually know which one, but I've been doing a lot of junk stuff today, so not entirely surprised to see some stuff crashing. Luckily, Claude Code is not the one running Electron, so we're good to go here. But to get started, you can go through these tips. So you've got /init that you can always run. That will create a claude.md file with instructions for Claude. Screw it. Let's just go ahead and do that. Why not? Let's see what happens. And then we can use it for file analysis, editing, bash commands, and git. We don't have anything in here yet, so we won't really be doing anything with that for now. And then, yeah, it just gives you some other tips. So what it will do when you do /init, if you had an existing project, is it'll actually go and look and use this tool command find to look for any file that has important information about this project. And then it will use that to document itself. Because we don't have anything, I don't expect a whole lot of magic to happen here, but let's just see what happens anyway. And by the way, what I plan on doing with this is trying to code as little of this myself as possible to actually truly go and vibe code this as much as we can. Of course, if it gets really stuck super bad, then I'll have to jump in. But okay, let's just cancel all of this because it's not going to find anything. This is a new project, so you won't find anything yet. However, and this is going to be a lot of me typing. I'll try to do some decent prompts, so it'll be a lot of me typing. But if you're not able to see my my screen, if it's too small or anything, then also let me know. I'm on a pretty massive monitor that's 4K here, so if it's too small, let me know. I can maybe adjust it a little bit, but I am already zoomed in to the max. All right, Derek is here. Derek, I thought you couldn't make it. Okay, how do I invite you? Okay, I'll send you an invite link on Discord. So we've got Derek who's going to join us here, which is fantastic because he's the Terraform expert, so he can rip what I'm doing apart. I'm not a Terraform expert. I use it in production, but I'm definitely not an expert. So you'll be able to ask him all the hard questions instead of me. But basically what I want to do here is I want to get started with creating this Terraform project. I need your help deploying a brand new Terraform project using the latest version you can find. Go ahead and set up the project structure, including supporting files, so that we can get started. And as I'm doing this, I probably also should have mentioned, just in case you're not familiar with Claude Code, if you have any questions about it, let me know. I've been using it a lot. But right now, I'm using their subscription. It's the $100 a month subscription, not the most expensive one, also not the cheapest. The reason I went for that is because you can actually use different models in here. So if I do /model, I don't think it'll let me do that because it's currently busy working. After that, it'll kind of queue that. But if I do /model, you have three options. Either it will balance for you automatically, or it will ask you if you want to use Opus, or it'll ask you if you want to use Sonnet. And I'll come back to that because it's prompting me here. So basically, it's going through it, created a to-do of what I want and need based on what I provided to it. And so you can see here, it kind of gives you a rundown. Of course, you want to verify this, make sure it's right. But just at a quick glance, it looks like it's decent. I don't know that we need a makefile, but whatever. We'll just run with it, see what happens. After that, it's like, okay, well, I need to make some directories. And I need these apparently environments with dev, staging, prod, modules, and Terraform data. So let's just see what happens. Let's press enter and let's go with it. And as I was saying before, as it's working now, there's Opus and there's Sonnet. Sonnet 4 is good for most day-to-day tasks because it uses a lot fewer tokens. It's a lot less expensive. Opus is very expensive, but a lot better most of the time, not always. So now diverging here. So it's creating file versions.tf. It's planning on adding all of that. It's going to have required version of 1.9.0. Required providers, HashiCorp AWS of 5, etc., etc. Apparently it needs random and null as well. I guess we'll find out why it thinks it needs those. So you'd want to go here. You want to go to Terraform and frankly start off by making sure that it's actually giving you the correct version. So here, for example, it was saying, what was it saying? Required version Terraform. So maybe we could go, latest Terraform required version. Oops. Hey, Derek, can you hear me? How do I message public? There's a chat, but can you join in? So Terraform versions, let's see if it's in here. And this is zoomed in so bad, it's really hard to see. Providers, required versions. So this one shows 1.75. We could do another quick Google search and get the actual latest version, but that's greater than that. So it looks like it's probably close enough. Is it not working? Can you not join, Derek? Like, I see you in the backstage, but I don't actually see you or hear you. How do I add you in here? Oh, I have to turn you on. There we go.
Hey, cool.
Okay, I cannot hear you though.
All right. I see green bars on the microphone, so I don't
Let me
know.
see if it's on my end or not. We're gonna try the side windows and see what happens. Yeah, is it me or is that you this time? You know what? It might actually be me. One sec. Yep, it's me. My bad. My bad. My bad.
Sweet.
Oh. Okay, say something.
Hello.
There we go. So yeah,
Yay.
cool, perfect.
Nice.
Welcome. Glad
Yep.
you came to save me just in time. Save the day.
Yeah.
All right, so now it wants to create a Terraform version. Let's just roll with it. Let's see what happens.
I don't think you should. I think you should use Terraform like 1.12.
1.12 instead of what is it trying to use again?
1.9.
1.9.
Yeah, you're missing out on a few cool features with that you can pick on Claude about if you want to.
It's funny because you ask it to get the latest version, and instead of it actually going out and looking for that latest version, which I just realized is literally right in front of me, it actually helps when I zoom out a little bit. And so it doesn't actually necessarily search unless you see that command that says searching. So
Yeah.
like when you see tool use here, for example, where it says, write this file or
Hmm.
blah, 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 then it'll have search and then it'll actually go out and search for information on the web versus just using whatever it was trained on or whatever it retrieved. And so obviously 1.12 versus 1.9, pretty
Yeah.
big difference there. I don't
Well,
know. how-
1.11 is when write-only arguments come in. So write-only
Mm,
arguments are special attributes for, like, let's say an RDS instance. And what happens is you can specify the password, from an invar or wherever you want to pull the password from. And normally, Terraform has to persist that to state, which is why it's so important that you keep your state protected. You can't just like hot load that and kick it off, or at least you couldn't until now. Now you can you use write only arguments, and what it does is it takes that password, provisions the resource, and then kicks the password out completely. So it never enters state. So that password is gone forever. You can obviously pull it from a secrets manager or something. That's one really good use is you can use write-only arguments to populate secrets manager. And so you can do that without that password ever being seen anywhere except for during like the normal pipeline. But it doesn't stick in state. It's not in your code. It's nowhere that somebody can get it. So a pretty big one for the security conscious in the audience.
And this is why we bring you in because you keep up with this stuff and you know this stuff.
Yeah.
So here it's trying to create that variables.tf file, right? One thing I'm going to do just for now is we can use Shift Tab or we can just scroll down and say, yes, don't ask me again for the session. I just wanted to create all these files. So I'll just do that for now. That way Derek and I can keep chatting and then it'll knock out the rest of this to-do hopefully. And then we can go back and fix a lot of the slop that we don't actually want, like the bad version, for example. So yeah, let's just sit here and watch it. This is a lot of
Yep.
what vibe coding is, right? Just watching it do stuff.
Pretty much, and just keeping an eye out on it. It is super helpful if you. It's like self-driving Teslas or whatever. You probably want to keep an eye on the road instead of just letting it roll. Especially if you're building from scratch, I've caught it doing so many things. I mean, I've caught I have seen LLMs try to delete my database.
Oh yeah.
I've seen them do all sorts of wacky stuff. I remember, I was on a live stream recently and I I vibe coded a script that would take my invars and create and prefix them with TF-var so they'll work with Terraform and then automatically set them within my environment. And I was like, okay, cool. Everything worked. And then something was missing. And I like asked it, I was like, hey, what's missing? And it's like, oh, let me check. And it printed my OpenAI key to
Oh no.
to the terminal. So I'm on a live stream and I had to hop into OpenAI like immediately and go and delete that key like while I was live on a stream. So yeah, keep an
I,
eye
I
on it.
I was wondering if something like that would happen tonight. So we'll keep an eye on it and see what happens. And speaking of that, so it created this make file.
Mm-hmm.
which is, let's see, we'll take a look at what it actually is because it's 71 plus lines in here. So we'll
Yep.
have to see what it added. And then next it created the get ignore file, which is going to have, it's usually pretty good at creating get ignore stuff. We'll see if it added the macOS things as well and .env and all that, but usually it's pretty good at doing that. And then it wants to create an example module structure. So now it has to create different folders. The way I have my Claude Code set up, it needs permission to create directories like this. So that's why it's asking me again. For the sake of this, I'll just don't ask again, just do it. If you need to create more directories, go ahead and do that. But of course, you can manually audit and control all of that too. And you can see whether that's turned on or not, by the way, with this purple text. And then you can press Shift and Tab to cycle between the modes. So either have auto accept edits, manual accept, or you can also do plan mode. Like if you want it to just kind of hash things out with you and not actually do anything yet, like delete databases, for example, or delete files, then you can just have it in plan mode. Because like Derek, how often has this happened to you? I know it's happened to you, but like it's happened probably 5 times today where I asked it to do something and it just goes off the rails and starts like I asked Opus to change one line of code and it's like plus 400 lines added. I'm like, what? What do you? And so you can catch that with plan mode before it actually does it and correct it, make sure it understands your requirements before it actually modifies
Yeah, I
files
thought
as
it
well.
dialed it in pretty well since 3.7. 3.7 was so bad. So bad. But I do have one rule. Actually, I have three rules. I have do not Terraform apply without my permission,
Mhm.
like period. No applies, no destroys. And I think the other like major rule is stay on task.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
a
what
good
I've
one.
noticed is, I'm using TypeScript. So there's always some sort of like type error or something like that. A lot of it's like really small or like you got accessibility errors, which I do want to fix. But while I'm like just building this up, that's a lot of wasted tokens when I'm probably going to blow away that feature anyway.
Right.
So by giving that rule that just says stay on task, it's done really well since then. It'll say, I noticed some lint errors, but we're ignoring it because it's not part of uh,
Yeah.
this task. And that one simple trick has has helped a lot. So that's really
So
cool.
maybe we can do that right after this, after reviewing what it created. Maybe we can go in and have it add its own rules, some of what Derek was just mentioning in there. So let's do a quick rundown here to see and do a sanity check. So basically, it updated the README with all the additions it just created. So it gives you a quick description. We can always modify that. And then it kind of gives you the breakdown of the project structure. So we have Terraform audit. So it created environment specific configs for dev, staging, and prod. Then you've got the reusable modules for VPC, security groups, S3 buckets. What's interesting about that is I didn't specify, I didn't tell it what infrastructure I wanted yet. So another thing that, like, obviously the prompt I gave it was pretty bad. Let's just start there. Usually I'd provide a lot more information, but something else I've started doing a lot lately is telling it, if you're not sure because I didn't give you enough information, please ask me before you do it. In this case, I'm not mad because I actually want all three of these things and more. But maybe we didn't want an S3 bucket or we didn't want to work with VPCs today. So now we have to go and have it modify that. So that's something else that can also help a lot. But moving on, we've got Terraform data. This is going to be for backend configurations and sensitive information. Backend config, providers, variables, versions, makefile, and .terraform version, which you said you do not recommend using.
I mean, it's
Um,
fine. It's definitely more modern than most what you're going to see in the wild. But if you're building this thing from scratch, you should
yeah.
totally use at least 1.11 or 1.12. 1.12 is the latest. 1.11 is when those write-only arguments were added, which again are super important.
So let's actually have it do that. Let's see where we're at.
Yeah.
So we'll
What are you
say,
building, by the way?
what's
I
that?
missed the initial prompt. What are you building?
Oh, yeah, the prompt was trash. So I just said I'm going to be deploying some infrastructure, get the directory started, get the project
Ah,
started,
okay.
and then I'll give you more
So
info.
that's
So
why it went
yeah,
so far over the rails. Like,
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
I don't see make files in most Terraform deployments. Like, it's cool if you have a lot of weird scaffolding stuff that you have to do, but to run Terraform apply and Terraform destroy or whatever, you like a make file is a little bit overkill. So by you
Yeah,
telling it to do an entire project, it went and found like the most just outrageous project out there and scaffolded it and just kind of assumed everything you'd want. So that's
Yep.
that. Yeah, that's cool. No, that looks right for what you asked for.
Especially because, and so I was kind of going on a tangent with that, and then I forgot, got distracted. But like when I was talking about the different models of Opus versus Sonnet, for
Yeah,
example, Opus I've noticed is an overachiever. Like the less information, the less guidelines and railroads you, or whatever that expression is,
yeah,
structure you give it, the more it's going to be like, okay, I need to do everything. I'm a
right.
boss. I can do this. I got this. And it's not going to give you what you want usually. So you want to give it more guardrails and say, all right, this is specifically
Yeah.
what I want you to build out. And then Opus does a really good job, usually a better job than Sonnet. But it's a lot more expensive. You'll blow through tokens a lot faster, especially if you're not on the $200 a month Claude plan that they have. So I keep meaning to show the model menu here. I'll do that right after this is done.
This is literally the first time I've seen Claude Code.
Are you kidding?
I've been in windsurf. Why would I do this? This is way more complicated than doing it right in my IDE. I totally get like it's cool. I love a good TUI, and I absolutely understand why people are attracted to this. But it just I don't know, man. Once windsurf moved to 2x credits, I think I've paid like $20 in the past 3 days of almost like nonstop vibe coding, just front end stuff. Um,
Yeah. So what's funny about that is because, like, when you think about it, you're just like, that makes no sense. Why would you not want to have something like VS Code?
yeah.
But what's really, really funny is I'll use both, right? I've got both, and
Yep.
we'll probably pull it up here in a second. I tend to start using VS Code some days, and then I'm just like, screw this. This is pissing me off. It's not doing what I want. It's just not like it's getting in my way when Cloud Code will just truck through it and get it done really quickly.
Sure.
So it's like it's just such a weird experience that I can't even fully explain when I'm asked to explain it. So yeah, I'm actually glad you hopped on so we can take a look at this and you can see
Yeah.
some of what I've been talking about. But
I feel
so
like this is better for scaffolding a large
yes,
project because then you don't want the IDE getting in the way because you just
right,
need all the
yeah.
things done. But once you're working feature to feature, then it might sometimes be easier to go in and dial in and get to the files individually.
And then if you're trying to spin up a bunch of stuff, like they just added, I think today I sent you that on Twitter, I think it was, where you can now spin up different agents. I haven't done this yet, so I'm not going to mess with that today because it's probably going to blow stuff up if I try to do it right now. But you can also spin up multiple different agents at the same time through this
Yep.
that can knock stuff out for you.
Yeah.
I would not use that very often
That's for
because I think,
writing tests as far as I'm concerned.
yeah, like it's something that should be parallelized, not hey, build out this entire project with 50 different agents. Like that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
That's not going to work the way that you want it to work. But if it's something you can run in parallel, then that's kind of a game changer. It's pretty fantastic. So let's review here. Let's see what it's going what it just did. So specifies 1.12.0 added example files. Oh, thank you. That's really nice. I didn't ask for that, but that's cool. Enhanced documentation, and then key Terraform benefits for 1.12. All right, let me show this before I keep forgetting. So this is what I keep referring to, but when you're selecting model, you can either do default, where it'll do Opus 4 for up to 20% of usage limits. Pretty sure you can change that number. I just don't remember how, and I haven't done it yet.
They just
Or
raised Opus limits today, like a few hours ago. I just got the email, by the way.
sweet.
Yep.
People were complaining a lot because
Yep.
they were, I think they had cracked down on it a bit, and a lot of people were canceling over that. Like you were running out of Opus credits within 15 minutes. It was
Yeah.
ridiculous. But you can also force its usage, right? So if I want to blow past 20% of usage limits, which I'm pretty sure resets every 5 hours, by the way, then I can just select Opus like this, and it will just stick to Opus. If you're in that default one, it will automatically kick you over to Sonnet after you've used up 20%. And or you could just switch to Sonnet, and then it will just use the Sonnet model until you change it, basically. So usually I start with default, and then, or if I'm doing stuff that Sonnet 4 can one shot, then I just switch to Sonnet 4 and save the credits. But for now, let's just switch over to default and go from there. So yeah, like usually when I'm not a massive terminal guy. I don't do everything in the terminal. That's just never been my life and my vibe. So usually when I get started with something like this, I want to now see it. I need to visually see what's going on. And so that's when I might pop out the good old VS Code, and it it keeps trying to make me use Copilot every time I update. So now it literally has a bar that I don't want. So let me get rid of that. It's so annoying when they do that, man. Like,
I uninstalled Copilot. Actually, I had to for an
I'm probably
interview,
about to do
but
that too because I literally cannot get rid of it. I don't want to use it.
I had an interview. He's like, "Dude, please uninstall Claude Code before you start this this programming challenge."
Nice. All right, just disabled it. There we go. Perfect. Okay, cool. So if we pull up VS Code, I'll zoom in a little bit so we can all see it. This is what we have. Just from that crappy prompt I gave it, it spit all of this out. It's a little bit too much, to be honest, like we were just talking
Yeah.
about. So I should have been a lot more specific with my prompt. I don't need all of this. I don't need this, right? What
No,
cost
no.
estimate?
I mean,
Blank.
it's cool stuff, but generally you're going to run that stuff in GitHub Actions or whatever in your
Yeah,
pipeline. You're probably not going to run that from the terminal. If you're doing all that stuff from the terminal, you have you're taking too much control over something you should not be doing in the terminal.
that's a good tip.
Yeah,
Automate that stuff. There you go.
yeah, it should all be automated.
So it also automatically created that Claude.md that we were talking about at the very beginning when I did that slash
Hmm.
init. And so basically, this file, if you're not familiar with it, just helps Claude understand the project, helps understand what technology it uses, like what tech stack it uses, what you don't want, what you do want, whether you never want to access .env and stuff like that as well, architecture overview. Like it basically populated all of that as it was working on it. It'll even specify like, here's some features we want to use from 1.12 or whatever it is. So what we could
Yeah,
do is we could either manually or go back in Claude Code, tell it, I don't want you to do XYZ. So
yeah.
let's do that now.
Add the write only arguments stipulation in there. I'm curious to see if it nails it.
Oh, well, let's do this.
You just say only use write only arguments when you can for resources and see if it figures it out. So basically RDS, secrets manager, and I'm not sure what else, but there are a few others that will take a write only argument. But those are the two most important ones, obviously.
Quick tip, if you need to add a new line just because you're weird about it like I am, you can do a backward slash and then press enter. Kind of a weird way to do that. I wish they'd just add shift and return like everybody else on the planet, but well, that's cool, whatever. And then also, what else do we want to do? Never look, never run,
Yeah.
apply. I will do this myself. Anything else?
Destroy. Yeah, I think that's
probably fine.
those are
That's
probably
just-
your big ones. What are the other ones too? Because sometimes it'll try to get around that kind of stuff. If, for instance, if there's like a resource that it wants to redo or something, it might try to delete it using the AWS CLI. So that's another pretty good tip. Like because these things they will try to jailbreak any rule that you have. I think we've all seen the examples out there. So yeah, they will absolutely try to jailbreak whatever it can and get the job done. So definitely, if there's any way around what you're doing, anything it can blow up, whether you need to put a read-only key in there for a bit or whatever, it's a smart move because these things are super dangerous.
I was just about to
production
say, if you're that concerned about it, like it's a production environment, you cannot mess up. I would just set up some read-only permissions while you're working on it until you're actually ready to execute stuff. Because even though it added this, what we just asked here, and it will literally say critical rules do not violate, it's going to at some point violate these rules. It just is. And so if you're talking about stuff like .env files, even if you say never ever, I don't care how many ways you say it, eventually it probably will accidentally access your .env. And so if that's critical, you need to work with these tools and knowing that, right? That's just kind of a vibe coding fact that you have to come to grips with. And the beauty of the way that I try to work with this stuff nowadays is my .env files for the most part usually really don't have anything that secretive anyway, where even if I unfortunately show it on live screen, or live stream, excuse me, I don't care. It doesn't matter. It's either something that won't cost me a whole lot or won't do a lot of damage, or they're temporary credentials that are going to expire anyway. And so that part typically doesn't matter too much for me, but that's something to keep in mind if you're using some valuable static credentials. That's definitely not always going to follow these rules. But you can see here, added them to Claude.md. If I pull this back up, I wonder where I added them, probably at the end. Yeah, so I just appended them in here. Specify, never commit. Yeah, let's look at the git ignore actually. Let's see what it added in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it already added this in.
Check your TF vars. Did it? Yeah. So TF vars used to be where you would hide secrets and stuff. I don't know why they still keep these in ENVs, because honestly, TF vars a lot of times is just where you define stuff. So sometimes I won't ignore those, because you will end up wanting to commit those. Because again, I'm not sticking secrets in my TFRs under any circumstances. They're going either in invars or they're in vault or something like that. I'm not statically defining them in a file. So again, a lot of times you'll see TFRs get committed so people can see what they need to define easily.
What's hilarious is I'm not used to live streaming impromptu like this, so I completely forgot we were live for a second. I thought you and I were just chatting. Like, wait, I need to actually look at chat, see what's going on there. So, what up, Chris? What
I
up?
still
What up,
can't
Professor?
chat. I
Huh?
don't understand. All I see is a thing for private chat. I
What
don't
up, B-Dubs?
see public
So
chat.
on the right, there should be like design captions. You may not see it if you're not the admin. I'll just send you a screenshot, but
Okay, yeah, I see I see the chat. I see people talking, and I feel so left out.
so you see the chat, you just cannot enter into it.
Yeah. I
That's
can't.
weird.
Again, all I have is private chat.
So Chris or one of the other live streaming savants, if you have any tips on how we can fix that, that way Derek can jump in and say some important things, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But anyway, so back to what? Oh, guests cannot post in YouTube chat from there. So I think you have to literally pull up the stream on either LinkedIn or YouTube and
Okay,
comment personally
got
instead,
it.
which actually makes a lot of sense.
I was wondering how that comment got in, and that was
Yeah.
from LinkedIn, so that makes sense. Got it.
Okay, so while you're figuring that out, back to what I was actually planning on doing with this. So yeah, I'm trying to create a YouTube video. The YouTube video is based around auditing infrastructure as code and the issues that people usually have with that, especially from a security perspective, obviously, since that's what I specialize in. So I want to create a Terraform environment, Terraform code that will deploy infrastructure in probably 2 to 3 AWS environments. I might also add some like legacy nasty CloudFormation that somebody forgot about that's in there that's just collecting dust. Basically just try to make it not clean and not perfect so that we can then go through and talk about how do we audit this, how do we fix some of these common issues and find stuff like drift, et cetera, et cetera. So perfect use case for vibe coding because I actually don't want this to be perfect. I want it to have mistakes, issues, potentially vulnerabilities that will inject in here as well and problems like that. So Derek, if you see stuff we're doing that's bad, point it out, but we may not actually fix it. And that's by design and on purpose here. So
Gladly.
please keep that in mind as you're streaming in. This is not the proper way to do this necessarily. Keep that in mind. So I had another window. This is what I do a lot nowadays. I still critically think. It's important to flex that muscle, but sometimes when I offload that critical thinking work, I will just go in and ask another Gen AI service to give me what I want, give me the prompts or whatever else. So I asked it to give me what resources we should push out. And this is what it came up with. Let me zoom in a little bit. It wants me to create VPC with 2 subnets, public, private, EC2 instance running a simple web server, RDS MySQL database, S3 bucket, security groups for web and database, and then basic IAM role for EC2. And then it'll have the demo problems that we can look at later. So this is basically what it's going to create for us. So we can go back and, I guess I'll show both if there's interest in that. We'll switch back and forth between Claude Code and what I also normally use, because I'm not cool enough to use Windsurf like Derek. Instead, I usually use something called Klein. But Klein's been giving me problems lately. I don't know if it's the latest updates or if it's because I need to reboot and haven't rebooted in way too long, but it's been causing issues. We'll see if it works here or not. Basically, Klein is just this open source software extension you can add to your VS Code, so you don't have to use something like Windsurf or Cursor. You can just use VS Code and stick to it, and then you can go in and you can select like which API provider do I want to use. The beauty of this is you can use Claude Code through Klein. So because I have the subscription, that's important because that means I'm not using the API keys. I'm not getting billed extra. This is all free. And you'll see that as I use it, it's not going to cost me anything at all. We can also select the model here. For now, I'll just stick to Sonnet and see what happens. So please review this project that I have so far. It's a brand new project, and then help me plan for adding resources in there. You'll notice at the bottom here, we have the plan versus act. That's the equivalent of me going in here and switching between these modes here. So if I do Shift Tab, we've got plan mode. This is the equivalent to plan mode. It's not going to write anything, make any changes. It's just going to tell you stuff. And then you can switch to manual mode, or you can just do auto accept, which is the equivalent to clicking on this act here. And to switch between them quickly, you can do Command Shift A. So you can go back and forth between plan and act. That's basically the best way to work with this stuff nowadays is you start out by planning stuff, make sure it understands everything you want, then you switch over to the acting. So let's press enter. Let's see if it's working or not. If not, yeah, see, I don't know what the deal is. I should reach out to them and see if it's a problem on my end or if it's something with Klein, but I literally can't get it to work today.
Maybe Claude Code found a way to break it.
Maybe, yeah. Let's actually screw it. Let's
wait. MCP tool use case MCP. So it's either dumping something massive or it's yeah. So I'm seeing like all of their tools.
they broke it. Yeah, they broke using Claude Code through this.
It looks like it's just spitting out like it's instructions.
Okay, yeah, that's what it was. Because now I switched to the API key. It's charging me now, and it is working fine. So I think there's an issue with trying to use Claude Code through this, which really sucks. I hope they can fix that because that's kind of a game changer for this. So I don't want to spend money. I'm going to switch back to Claude Code.
Well, you're still spending money, just nowhere near as much.
Well, no, this is part of my subscription, right? So
yeah. So I mean, still you're spending money. Yeah,
I'm spending the money, but what I mean by that is like I'm not like here where it says you spent 50 cents, right? I'm not getting billed in addition to that $100 I already paid for the month, right?
Well,
so yeah, I'm paying $100 a month.
I've definitely paid $15 for a single feature with Opus. I've watched it happen. I just sit there and I watch my phone, just like, here's $15. It's like playing a slot machine. You're just wondering, you're like, please get it this time. And if it doesn't, you're like, all right, I'll pay you more money, but come on, we're going to hit this time. It's going to work. These tests are going to pass. So
I was going to say something about that, and then I got distracted with chat. What was I about to say? Oh, yeah. Looking at my usage, just going crazy on some of this stuff. If I were paying with my API key for just the month of July, I would have spent close to $300 by now. So somehow by spending $100 a month, I am saving money. I never thought I would say that, but that's now my reality. Okay, so going back to this, let's... I'm pasting in what I pasted in the other one, which is those requirements of what I wanted to spit out. So what was I asking it to do? I completely lost my train of thought here. Oh, yeah. I want you to help me build out this infrastructure, please. And actually, I meant to put that in plan mode. So what you can do is you can interrupt it with escape if you ever screw up and need to interrupt whatever it's doing. Let's keep going. So now I'm in plan mode, which means it's not actually going to go out and do it yet. So I can review it and make sure that it's going to, or it's planning on doing what I actually wanted to do first. Not go on like a rampage and modify 400 lines of code in the completely wrong direction that we have to revert back. Oh, sweet. A comprehensive plan. Nice. That's what we want. We want robust, secure, comprehensive plans. I swear, if I see somebody talk about robustness on LinkedIn one more time. Okay. So we have, what do we have? I must not have pasted in what I meant to paste in because this is not what I was asking for. This is why we check. This is why we go in plan mode. No, not what I was wanting to go with. Instead, please focus on, let me grab what I had. Keep this very simple. We can always add more as we go along. Let's see how that does, if that does any better or not. All right, so that looks better already. We have use existing VPC module already configured, add EC2 with user data, RDS, S3, blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah, much, much better, right? So when you're more specific with it, it just does a better job. And when you say stuff, especially with Opus, a model like Opus, not all of them are this way. Some models are pretty lazy, but a model like Opus that's less lazy, you have to be super specific or it just goes completely crazy on you.
Question is it going to use the write-only arguments for the RDS database? That will
Let's
be
find out.
interesting. Yeah. I was
So let's
looking
see
in
how long
key
it takes.
features. I didn't see anything there. So, well, proper security boundaries. Maybe that's something they say. Let's see.
Well, it said it was going to be robust, right? So
I mean, it's not robust if it doesn't have write-only arguments.
oh, great question for Chris, from Chris. Okay. So Chris asked, have you tried using Gemini to make the prompt and copy pasta? Yeah. So that's a really good tip. One thing you can do is, I can't remember if it's M-M. So you can do Gemini-M, I think it is. You might even just be able to do this. I can't remember. Anyway, so Gemini is another competing CLI to Claude Code. So you could also call Claude P. Oops. Oh my God, I cannot type. Like this, right? What is 2 plus 2? And so that will run Claude Code CLI in the background and then just return that answer. You can do the same thing with Gemini CLI. So you could do, and okay, that did not work. So it's not -M. Chris, what's the command? What is the command to run the Gemini? Gemini, yeah, it is M. So why is it going in? As you can tell, I don't use Gemini that much. The way that I actually use it is really silly, but I will use it to Google stuff from my terminal. So how do I run Gemini CLI from the terminal without opening it up? And it will actually Google stuff for me, and that way I don't have to go in the browser, and I can just be super lazy about it. But I don't remember how to use it one-liner without opening it up. So Chris, let me know if you have the magic copy pasta command for that one. But you can basically do that. You can just ask it and say, hey, give me a prompt for this. Oh, it's P, Gemini P. Same thing as Claude. So what was the question that we wanted to ask? Oh, yeah, I already got it. But we could say, like, generate a prompt for Claude Code that will help generate Terraform infra, right? And it'll spit that out for you, and then you can copy and paste it into Claude Code and go from there. These are all fantastic ways of being super lazy, which I'm very much about.
It's the whole point of this, right?
Sometimes it's a little bit slower going this way. It's not really built for this, I don't think, so that's why it's probably a little bit slower, but it works, as you can see. Okay, whoops. Back to the other window we go. Let's look at what kind of shenanigans is going on here. Oh, he wants to get rid of my examples. Why? Just for demonstration. So, all right, it's already starting to remove crap. So that's not cool. But as we know, less code equals better code, more secure code, less buggy code. So screw it. Let's remove this file. And by the way, this is why I don't YOLO mode ever. I see people on YouTube YOLOing. I think it's a fun gimmick, but like it will literally just delete random files that have nothing to do with the to do tasks that that you were doing. So I don't recommend YOLO unless you're supervising and ready to hit that escape. Cool. So before running these commands, we need to update SSH access, set the key pair name to an oh, I forgot. You know, I use EC2 so rarely nowadays. I forget that it requires crap like this, which is
Or
so
you can just
annoying.
use SSM.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is instead of that, we really need to be
Well,
using
so
SSM.
just tell it to give IAM roles for, you need SSM, you need SSM's the big one. And then if you're securing it, you'll need KMS. And then if you're logging it, you'll need CloudWatch. But SSM, I think, is the primary thing that you really need.
Yeah, and we probably will get to EC2 today because instead, let's just do S3 bucket to start. Make sure that's actually working. Then we can build out the entire VPC, make sure that's right, and then we can start worrying about
I
EC2 and
mean,
RDS.
it's going to blow that stuff away. I've built 2 or 3 of these stacks in the past couple of days just on my own stuff and like some other demos. It's going to blow that stuff away. You're not even going to have to think about it. VPC
When,
is going to get absolutely blown away. No
when
problems,
you
no
say blown
groups.
away, that
Oh
that
yeah,
could mean
no.
two things here.
Yeah.
So be more
It's gonna kick
specific.
out those things at like 1,000 words a minute.
Okay,
Yeah.
just making sure we're on the same page here.
Yeah. Yeah, those things will be done. You won't have a chance to even like review them as it's doing it. It's gonna kick it out so fast. Yeah, so I would totally build the infrastructure first because I have not had to look at it. Now, load balancers, it starts to get weird with EKS, ECS, it starts to miss things. But in this stack, it's going to be easier just to let it rip and go back and troubleshoot than it will be to go like piece by piece.
And speaking of, let's take a look at what it's doing as it's doing it. So I'll get rid of this guy. And we'll take a look at S3 bucket. So it already has stuff in here, actually. I think it had already done this, which is hilarious. I didn't even see that. We're scrolling through this so quickly. Obviously, go a little bit slower and take a look at what it's doing, but here we're just messing around so we can go faster. But yeah, so it had already created stuff. Wow, what a fantastic resource name.
Nope, that's good. That's good. It sucks, but you have to start accepting this because as you start like adding multiple resources and using for each and stuff like that, it starts to get very complicated. And whenever you start, like if you have to, let's say you need to go through hundreds of state files. I'm only saying this because I literally had to do it like 2 weeks ago. You have to go through like hundreds of state files and you need to find all of these resources. By coming up with these very consistent resource names, you're going to do a lot better. Now, it doesn't always have to be this. If you have a single resource, it's usually best not to use this, but you do need to use something that is simple, it identifies it, but also does not include the words in the bucket. So you're not going to say like S3 bucket or S3 bucket dot S3.
Yeah.
You're going to say S3 bucket dot this or S3 bucket dot, data files or whatever like that. Because you want to think about whenever you have to do research and find all of these resources, how easy is that going to be whenever you're grepping through like hundreds of files? So yeah,
Okay.
this works really well, especially if you use for each.
This is hilarious. So while I was not paying attention, again, Opus is really bad about this. Even though I told it to work on S3, it's like, oh, dude, that's too easy. You need to give me more crap to do. So it just automatically gave itself EC2 tasks. So now it's actually working
Wait,
on the EC2 instance itself
what did it do?
and all the user data. Like it's literally adding in a bunch of user data
Yeah,
to
to do
set up a
what?
web page.
Did you tell it to set up a web page? No. What?
That's what I've been
Dude.
telling you, man. Opus is like an overachiever that's actually very
But like
annoying.
I've used Opus. Maybe it's just Claude Code that goes nuts. I don't know. This is wild.
Maybe,
This
but
is
I've had the same
wild.
issue in Klein as well, where it's like unless
Yeah.
I'm hyper specific and tell it just do this, nothing else, it's like, all right, boss, I got this entire project. You can just go sip coffee, whatever, come back and I'll be done. Of course, it's not going to work.
Did
It's
you
going to be a
tell it to do a
disaster.
PHP application?
Ooh, I should do that, but no,
No,
it looks
that's
like,
what's in the notes.
oh, it is. Yes.
Hey, hang on, hang on.
How does it know I want
Where
PHP?
does get its memories from? It might be pulling memories from your other PHP work.
Well,
Does it have access to anywhere that would indicate that that's what it needs to do? Because that
my
happens to me a lot. Old
my understanding
conversations
is
will come up.
no,
Okay.
but that's pretty creepy that it would just default to PHP, which is what I love
Yeah, that's super creepy because
because
I
usually it
don't.
doesn't, right? So, but yeah, typically when you just start that CLI up for this project, it forgets everything else. In fact, you can clear the context and everything, and it won't remember what you were just talking about. So, supposed to not, but at this point, who knows? I wouldn't even be that surprised if it is. But yeah, that's interesting.
Interesting. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm not mad about it. I like PHP, so that's my jam. Okay, it created the S3 bucket. It added a bunch of stuff in here. So now we have the bucket policy stuff, block access. It even added some core stuff, lifecycle management configuration. Ooh, comprehensive S3 permissions. Love to hear that for EC2. Simple PHP application with file upload capability. I'm sure that's super secure and robust. Upload files directly to S3, real-time file listing, refreshing every 5 seconds, file upload, blah, blah, blah. Access the web server HTTP, upload files. Okay, cool. Somebody's like, this is scary. Yes, it is. I agree. Okay, so what I need to do next is I need to authenticate. So I'm going to be doing this in a separate window really quickly because I don't want one of you using my temporary credentials against me right now.
Yeah, this stuff is going to be a gold mine for people in security. Like this is just absolutely going to be the best days of your life. You're going to get so many like red team wins out of this kind of stuff. It's going to be insane.
Okay, so I use a tool called Granted. Common fate. So if you're not familiar with all that stuff, just a quick context switch here, where I use AWS organizations for, like, I have multiple AWS organizations. Both of those have multiple AWS accounts, and one of them is purely for demonstration purposes, purely for projects, for videos, for crap like that, so that I don't care what happens to those. It could get completely compromised. I wouldn't even care, right? Now, of course, I would care from a billing perspective, but not from anything that could potentially merge over to the business. It's completely separate from all of my production resources. But to manage all those profiles in your terminal, you can use a tool called Granted, which was originally created by a company called Common Fate. Excuse me. And Granted is a CLI tool that simplifies access to cloud roles and allows multiple cloud accounts to be open in your web browser simultaneously. So what you can do is you can use it to assume credentials and it will refresh tokens for you. Reason I bring this up is because instead of having to go and grab some long-term access keys or whatever from a user in my account that I want to deploy this to, instead in my terminal, I just refresh my credentials to my organization and one of those accounts. And now I want Terraform to tap into that and to use that information to deploy those resources for us. So kind of doing some stuff behind the scenes here just because we're on live stream that would make no sense if I just started doing it and you're like, how did you get to that point? Not following. That would be why. Wait, Chris, did I leak an API key? Oops.
I didn't see it.
Don't go spend all my money. Okay, so yeah, where's my terminal at? Let me pull this up. What do I want to assume?
Oh man, Granted looks great. Thanks for that.
Oh yeah, it's pretty sweet.
That's wonderful.
What do I want to deploy to? I don't know. This organization's a mess. I should have cleaned this up before we did this. But probably the demo account. That would make sense, wouldn't it? Yeah, we'll probably do that.
Whoop, I'm getting pinged. It's time to go watch the final episode of season 10 of new Doctor Who. So I'm gonna have to go and knock that out. But
And
this
actually, yeah, we've been streaming for almost an hour, so
oh
probably
nice.
going to start wrapping up here anyway. But thanks for hopping on,
Yeah.
man. I
No,
appreciate the
this was
words of
fun.
wisdom.
Yeah, we should do it more often.
We will definitely do it again. It will be impromptu, just the same. Don't worry.
All right, y'all.
All right.
Later.
Enjoy. Bye. All right. So in this window here, which I probably can't show because I should have set this up a little bit differently, but I assumed my permission set that I want to use for deploying this infrastructure. So now let's see, because this is hit or miss. I'm going to tell you right now, I may have to manually go in and make modifications to this. Sometimes AI struggles a bit with this. I think it's because it's newer stuff. There's not as much or as many tutorials out there that explain how to do it, and or it's just kind of messy. But what I want to do next is a fairly big change. So what we can do is, instead of running out of context and just cramming too much context into this, which costs more in tokens and also can start to confuse the LLM, in Claude Code, you can use the clear command. And so that's going to clear the conversation history and free up your context. You can also use compact. That will try to keep a summary in context, so you don't have to go back and literally tell it everything it's just been doing. In my experience, though, compact doesn't work super well, and it takes a while, and it uses up some of your tokens anyway. So I don't use it very often. So instead, we'll just do clear, and now it's just lost all that context. So we're working on a Terraform project, which is why I'm repeating this here. And I need you to help me deploy the S3 bucket we just configured via Terraform plan and then Terraform apply. I have not yet initialized this project. And also, I want to use my SSO tokens to do this. Long-term credentials. I'm using, oops, good grief, cannot type. Granted by Common Fate for managing my credentials. Please help me plan this out. And let's see what it does. Let's see if it goes in the right direction here. And as Derek pointed out as he hopped off here, thanks for the final words of wisdom. Probably a good idea to use the read-only credentials at first until you know you're good to go and apply. I'm not doing that here because I just don't care about this environment. This is a throwaway environment. It could deploy stuff. I'm not worried about the billing either. I've got a bunch of credits in here. So I don't care about it. But if you're doing stuff like this near production for your employer, then definitely start off with read-only permissions that you've deployed to those environments. Okay. Oh, also something else that Derek should have mentioned, and I'm sure he would have if he were still here. You can set conditionals. I forget what they call them in Terraform, but basically you can have Terraform reject or give you a warning if it detects that you're in the wrong account. So if you've assumed, or if you think you're using the right credentials, it's easy to make the mistake and put the wrong credentials in there. And then you go to Terraform apply, you deploy resources in the wrong account. Oops, not what you wanted. You can check, you can add those conditionals or whatever they're called in Terraform. I'll have to double check. And it will see what account you're in, see what account your credentials are in, compare the two. And if it's wrong, then it'll give you a heads up and you can cancel before you move forward. But anyway, I digress here. Let's go back to this. So backend config, for example, with your actual S3 backend details, AWS authentication. Yep. Variable, key pair. Why does it need key pair? We'll take a look at that in a minute. Run making it. Oh yeah, it wants me to use make. I don't love this, to be honest with you. We might change this before too late, but yeah, I don't really want to use make for this small project. And then it'll tell us these are all the resources it plans on deploying. I don't even know, does it have RDS even configured yet? Let's take a look. I think it really just overachieved. No, it doesn't even have that yet. So just S3, security group, and VPC. Yeah, it already has some of this in here. So we're good. It's they got that information wrong. That's okay. Makefile, blah, blah, blah. Let's just go with it. Let's just see what happens. It probably won't work. That's okay. We'll just go with it. The to-do list to create and track our progress. Yep, to-do lists are fantastic. We definitely want to do that. Claude Code is pretty good about doing to-do lists. Otherwise, I would manually force it. I would just make it create like a tasks.md or something like that, and then check off those, like dump it in there. I can read it and then verify that it's doing it correctly and not going outside of scope of that. But Claude Code does a pretty good job of creating its to-do lists on the fly, which is nice. Okay, so why does it keep saying that? Let's take a look at this guy. Where is it? Region, US East 1, environment dev, project, true. So it's adding some default tags and setting some defaults for the region, stuff like that, which is actually good. That's what we want. Key pair name. That's the part I don't think we're going to want, actually. I don't know why it insists on that. Okay, so we'll see if that's a real command or not. Yeah, that's not a real command. I don't know why it wants me to run that, but that's okay. Yeah, man, we went on too many tangents. I'm not going to achieve as much as I meant to achieve in the hour here. So we'll probably have to start wrapping up. And then who knows, maybe tomorrow, if I'm feeling up for it, we can continue where we left off and actually deploy our infrastructure somewhere and make sure that's working. Okay, so yes, let me run this real quick. I'll try to knock out a bunch of this and then I'll hop off here in the next few minutes. But okay, I just ran that successfully. No, it's assuming account. And I'll just pass in the ID just so it knows. I like to give it some of that information. And I don't mind you guys knowing what the ID is. That's really not a secret either. But then I can kind of keep that in its context. And in the future, that can always be helpful. Okay, so now it wants to start using some make stuff. So it wants to use init initialize Terraform with backend config environment. Okay, so it's basically going to run Terraform init with this backend config equals Terraform data backend, and then it will give us the environment that we're dealing with. So yeah, I'm okay with running that actually. That's fine. A little bit too fancy for our small demo project, but that's okay. I don't mind it. The 12-hour speed run, yeah. So vibe coding was supposed to knock this out in 5 hours according to Twitter and all the gurus on Twitter. I should have already made millions of dollars from this project in the last hour and a half. The fact that I've not done that makes me a failure, guys. So my apologies for being too slow. Okay, so we're going to do make init. Didn't it just run that? Oh yeah, I had an error. Unsupported Terraform core version. Does not support Terraform version. What? Yeah, of course this version doesn't support that version. That's kind of the point. So to proceed, either choose another supported Terraform version or update this version constraint. Oh, it's a constraint that we have in versions.tf. Got it. Okay. So I forgot to update that when I asked it to upgrade the version earlier, which is a common thing. No valid credential sources found. Yep. That's fine. So it detected the issues. Backend cannot find AWS credentials. Deprecate parameter warning for damage table. What? Initialize without their own backend found. Started. So now it just wants to run Terraform init, which is what it should have done in the first place, right? That would have gone a lot smoother, to be honest. I'm a broken record in this stream, but that's one of the big things to watch out for with Opus. Opus is an incredible model. It's fantastic, but damn, it tries too hard, which makes your life harder. You have to keep it in check. And or especially if like the beginning, if you want to start off on a good footing, start maybe with Sonnet 4. And then as you're writing actual code, then you can have Opus come in and stay more focused on that. Okay, we'll run format, make validate, make sure Terraform files are correct. If there's any errors, we can look at that. You can use Control R to expand and take a look, and then Control R again to minimize. So it basically truncates stuff so it's just not spamming your feed. Look at them tokens go. Whee! Hey, Christian, had a question for what resources would I recommend for learning Python and Terraform? For learning Terraform specifically, we have a course on Cyber. So that would be a pretty good place to start if you are interested in Terraform for AWS specifically. So we actually walk you through from start to finish how to deploy this type of infrastructure on AWS, which is ironic because that's literally what I'm doing in this live stream here. So let me pull that up so you can see it. And then I would also recommend Derek's courses. So Derek is the Terraform Pro. He's definitely got a lot more content on this than I do. And you can go to morethancertified.com to find those courses there. But this is going to be our Terraform on AWS from zero to cloud infrastructure, where you deploy basically all the stuff we're deploying in this live stream here. So frankly, it would have been a lot faster for me to just copy and paste code from our project files here. But I just wanted to show from start to finish how we can do this vibe coding the quote unquote easy way, which as we are seeing is not actually that easy yet. Maybe in a couple of years it will be, but we're not quite there yet. For your second question about Python, there's a ton of coding Python resources out there that are free, ton of stuff on YouTube. It's ridiculous how much Python content there's out there. So I would just start looking at that and then use stuff like Claude and ChatGPT, whatever else you prefer to help you through that. Like don't necessarily have it run stuff for you or write the code for you yet. Use it as a peer reviewer or just a peer, right? A peer that's coding with you, a coding partner, and ask it questions, ask it to give it feedback on what you're doing and go from there. And that works exceptionally well in my experience. So man, I really hate this make stuff. I'm gonna do that and then I'll hop off because I need to wrap up here. But I really don't want to be this make stuff. Please get rid of it and let's stick Terraform commands for this simple project. I'm going to put it in plan mode for this one because I wanted to think about it. Another tip you can use here that I've learned is if you're not getting the results you want and you feel like it's just not actually thinking, it's just kind of like regurgitating crap for you, what you can do is you can ask it to ultra think. So I'm going to do that now. This is probably okay, but I'm going to exit out of this. I want you to ultra think, or I want you to think very hard about this to make sure you completely get rid of the make commands and then just see what it does. Usually it will think about it a little bit longer, harder. You'll see that it uses more tokens potentially. And then it's going to give you an answer. Maybe it's the same answer. Maybe it's something a little bit different. But as you can see here, it's spitting out a lot more thought process. You can actually see what it's thinking about and you can verify it. So it'll tell you they want to emphasize completely get rid of the make commands, blah, blah, blah. We've already done this. What remains to do? It wants me to think very hard. So you can see that difference between this here, right? You don't see any of that process. And now this right here with a detailed plan of what you want it to do. Let's review it real quick. So yes, yes, yes. No make commands, plan, apply. Okay. Okay, yes, that's great. However, I have to hop off. And so I want you to create a documentation file that explains what you just came up with, what we're trying to accomplish. And then I didn't see you mention anything about getting profile to work for Terraform so we can authenticate and deploy this. So plan mode still, we'll see what it comes up with, and then I'll switch it out of plan mode. It'll write that file for me. We'll wrap up there, and I can start fresh tomorrow, feed it in that documentation file, and it will pick back up exactly where I left off. So that's usually my workflow when I'm just trying to deploy some quick projects like this. If I'm doing something a little bit more legitimate, like for production, obviously I go a lot slower. I do a lot more manual coding, manual review, use it more as a peer review and stuff like that. But when it's a project for a quick video I need to put together, especially if I want it to be sloppy on purpose, have vulnerabilities and stuff like that, then this is a pretty good workflow for that. And Claude Code does a pretty good job with it. Yeah, think very hard is another good prompt, frankly, and agree with that. So before I hop off, anything else that you guys want to chat about? Any questions about what we saw tonight? Should I keep doing this? This was completely random. Just felt like doing it. If I should keep doing it, let me know. And yeah, okay, we've got a deployment guide. So let me go in this other tab here and we'll do cat deployment guide and we can see, wow, it wrote a lot. Good grief. Opus is nuts. So yeah, it just like detailed a bunch of stuff. And so now I can just say, when I spin back up tomorrow, I can go back in plan mode. I can say, hey, good morning. Please review at deployment guide, like that. And it will actually tell it exactly which file to look at. So it's not trying to go after everything. I'm basically sniping out this document here, and it will read all that information we just saw in the prior tab right here. And then it will pick back up where we left off. Cool. Any questions before I hop off? By the way, thanks for joining us tonight. Hopefully this was useful and insightful. Learned a couple things. Thanks for joining, Chris. Thanks for joining, B-dubs. Good to see y'all again. Hope you're both doing well. If you haven't checked out their stuff, they're over at Study GRC. They do a lot of live streams that are way better than the way I do them, that are about GRC and everything to do with that. So very good community. Highly recommend checking them out. Checking chat. Where is my video? There it is. All right, cool. I think we're out of comments. So thanks for joining us tonight. And yeah, maybe if I'm feeling good, we'll do this again tomorrow and we'll actually deploy this stuff in AWS Live. So I promise I won't pick this back up without, well, I can't promise that. I do need to get this project done for a video, but I'll do my best to live stream where we picked up and go from there. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. Hope you have a good night, and I'll see you all